You're down there. I've got to separate all in fact, the trustee chairman wanted me to fine for being late, but trustee right for being there. Yeah, that's nice. That's right. Nice guy. He'd be on the chart. I will call the meeting to order and ask the secretary to call for the
Conley, here. Curtis, Ford, present. Gilbert,
president.
Hightower, Sauber, Sharma,
Hey,
Simmons,
here.
Tedford.
A quorum has been established. Before we begin with the rest of the meeting, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention what today is. On December 7th, 1942, President Roosevelt said that was a day we'll live in infamy. September 11th, 2001 is a day that changed the world. And if you notice, coming here today, almost all the flags are half staff. There's been memorial services held throughout the country, even on college campuses. And so I would like to start today with a moment of reflection for what happened 23 years ago when the lives were lost and the lives were saved, especially the lives that the fire department in New York, they lost over 300 firefighters, but they saved thousands. So a moment of reflection. Thank you. There will be a public questions and comments portion available in today's meeting to last up to 15 minutes, a total of 3 minutes per speaker. Are there any persons who wish to speak today? Madam Secretary.
No speakers.
The 2025 Board of Trustees meeting schedule is on the agenda for a vote at tomorrow's meeting. Is there any discussion about the change needed to that item? I know we moved the February meeting up, I think, a week. Everyone hopefully is aware of that. Any discussion regarding that item? If not, the next item is the Ohio Valley Conference Certification Form for the SIU Edwardsville, which is presented to the board annually and signed by the chair. A copy of this form was sent to the board members ahead of the meeting. Are there any questions about this item? If not, I will sign. I think I have signed the certification. The next item is a presentation on advances in cybersecurity at SIU. Dr. Kupchak, will you introduce our speakers?
Thank you, Judge Gilbert. It is my pleasure to introduce our presenters from the SIU School of Business, whose presentation today is entitled Securing Our Future, Advances in Cybersecurity at SIU. Our presenters are Dr. Clay Williams, Dr. Marcus Nabo, and their student, Nicholas Vidashek. Dr. Williams is a professor and chair in the Department of Computer Management and Information Systems at SIU. His research deals with applying the critical realism research paradigm in information systems research, healthcare analytics, the processes of coordinating, and information system governance, and the creation of ongoing use of complex information systems. Dr. Nawat is an assistant professor of computer management and information systems at SIU. He teaches information security, programming, IT strategy, business application of generative AI, and project management, and his research interests are information security and generative AI. Nicholas Vidashek is starting his third year at SIU and pursuing bachelor's in business administration with specializations in computer information systems and finance. And he has a focus in German. Check this out. He maintains a 4.0 GPA and expects to graduate in 2026. He works as a pathways intern for the National Agricultural Statistical Survey and also serves as a supplemental instructor for finance courses in the School of Business. He is a member of student chapters of the Association for Information Systems and the Financial Management Association, and has received several academic scholarships and honors. With that, I present to you the School of Business.
Seems like we have a little bit of feedback sometimes. I don't know whether you need to be further back or can everyone hear okay?
How's that? Is that okay? Is that good? Hi, I'm Clay Williams. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you some of the things that we're doing in school business and part of the CMIS to address the industry and educational needs in the area of cybersecurity. It worked a minute ago. Next slide. Thank you. Most of us are familiar with the challenges of cybersecurity. Some of us have been impacted directly. The cost of these cybersecurity challenges are significant and the implications can be extraordinary. Just recently, last month, National Public Data disclosed over 2.7 billion records, including individuals' names, social security numbers, birth dates, account numbers, account passwords, and other personal identifying information. I know this personally because I got me, as well as two members of my family. Last year, this time, HSHS Health System suffered a ransomware attack that effectively shut down their hospital system for many weeks, adversely impacting their ability to deliver healthcare in the areas that they serve. This heightened security environment has created a significant demand for people with the expertise and skills in cybersecurity. And it has also created a very significant employment gap. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has estimated that between now and 2032, there will be an over 30% growth in the positions needed in cybersecurity, looking at something like 16,000 positions a year. Closer to home, cyberseek.org estimated that in Illinois and Missouri alone in 2024, there are over 27,000 open cybersecurity positions. Next slide. In the Computer Management and Information Systems Department, CMIS, and the School of Business at SIU, we offer a variety of programs at the undergraduate and graduate level. Our focus today is the things that we're offering in the area of cybersecurity. Next slide. Our specialization started in fall of 2022. It is the product of a Chancellor's Innovation Grant from 2018. As you'll see in a minute, that investment has started to pay off quite well. Our program is not focused on just the technology of cybersecurity. That's important. However, it's not just the technology of cybersecurity. We're looking at more than that. We're looking at this combination of people, process, and technology so that our students have the foundation that they need in order to be able to be successful in this demanding field. Now, our program is based upon a framework that was proposed by a task force from three of the largest international associations dealing with high technology and information systems. What we do is focus on providing our students with the knowledge, the skills, and the experiences that they need to be reactive in a highly dynamic and challenging environment. Part of what we do in our program to prepare our students for the marketplace is provide opportunities in addition to great coursework and challenging experiences, opportunity to earn industry recognized certifications in cybersecurity that actually prepare them for the marketplace. The three that you see on the top are part of the core or required courses in cybersecurity that they have an opportunity to earn. Through their elective choices, they can earn additional certifications in the area of cybersecurity. Next slide. As you can see here, our enrollments have grown impressively. What I'd like to point out is that the original plan called for us to have about 50 students 5 years in. We're currently close to double that and see ongoing growth in this area. Next slide. experiential learning is a significant part of what we try to do in the cybersecurity program. Our students have been involved with over 50 internships at over 40 different companies since the fall of 2022 in cybersecurity internship positions. This is just a sampling of some of the companies regionally and nationally where our students have been placed. Next slide. Here are what a couple of our faculty and students have to say about cybersecurity specialization in the School of Business at SIU.
Cybersecurity being one of our three specializations we have within the CMIS program. The reason why we chose cybersecurity as one of these specializations is because I guess we can all agree there's not a day that passes without an attack being mentioned on the news.
Most cybersecurity breaches come from the people side of things. So generating business leaders that understand the language of business, not just the language of bits and bytes. They understand technology, but they also understand policy and procedure, and they understand how to lead people, how to motivate people, how to change their behavior. That's what we focus on, and we're lucky to be able to do that in the School of Business because we're creating really well-rounded business people that are going to understand both the technical and the business issues that they need to in order to be successful in the world.
Everybody's going to need it. Everybody needs security. Everybody needs to feel protected. You see it all the time in the news. Microsoft getting hacked, Facebook getting hacked. So much information is getting leaked out. So we need way more cybersecurists to really protect all this information and really fight off the people who are hacking and trying to steal information.
Enrollment in the cybersecurity specialization just doubled every semester as soon as we rolled it out, from 5 students to 10 to 20 to 40. And we're over 100 now. It's just grown every single semester.
Another part of the experiential learning is the opportunity for our students to engage in joint research projects with our faculty. And it's my pleasure now to introduce Nicholas Woodcheck to come up and share some of his experiences in our program.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. First of all, I'd like to say I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you all today. So I am a current junior at SIU. I'm studying computer information systems and finance and also working towards a German focus. I'm from the Southern Illinois area, and my brother graduated from SIU in 2022, so I'm familiar with the school and the area from that. I'm also a member of SIU's Association for Information Systems chapter and the Financial Management Association here on campus. Kind of looking at my career aspects, so I'd love to work in an area that combines the skills I've learned in finance and computer information systems, specifically maybe at a financial institution in the St. Louis area. Let me get into a little bit about my School of Business experience, specifically relating to the CMIS department and computer information systems. So one of the things that really is great about the CMIS program at SIU is that they offer really exciting programs in both cybersecurity and data analytics. So their data analytics program is new. I'm actually looking to take a couple of those classes as part of my electives. And they also have great cybersecurity classes that really get into what's important in that area, which is really expanding, as you heard from Dr. Williams. Another thing that's great about the CMIS department is the relationships with the faculty. So throughout pretty much every one of my classes, I've been able to talk to all my professors and get to know them personally outside the classroom. One of those relationships is with Dr. Naro, and I had him for a CMIS programming class. As part of those classes, he would hold voluntary Friday programming sessions. So every Friday, I'd trek over to the engineering building and take 2 hours out of my day and learn more about programming. So through this relationship with Dr. Naro, he asked me to work on an IRCA project with him. And that brings me to another one of the, so an IRCA project is the Undergraduate Research and Creative Activities Project. So that's another one of the great things about the CMIS department. They offer hands-on learning and research that you can actually work with a faculty and to do actual research in the field. Next slide, please. That's what I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about today, the IRCA project that I've been working on with Dr. Nardo. So we started this project at the beginning of the year, so we've been working on it now for the second semester. And the great thing about this project for me is that it's combining really all of my interests. So it combines finance and cybersecurity, so the technology portion, and it's also international. So we're working with the University of Applied Science of the German Central Bank. So that brings in my German focus as well. If you look in the top right of the screen here, this is a picture of the University of Applied Science. So this is a 12th century restored castle. Not quite as prestigious as the room we're in today, but I'd say it's a close second. So all the students at the University of Applied Sciences is where they live and do all their work. And then there's a picture of what one of the rooms looks like in the bottom right. Next slide, please. So let me ask you all a question. How many of you have lost money in the stock market when a company that you've invested in has been hit by a cyber attack? Probably a lot of you. So I have as well. Wouldn't you like to know if certain types of companies will have a greater impact on their stock price after they've had a cyber attack against them? So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at if more technological companies, if their stock price goes down more after they've had a cyber attack. So I partnered with Albert Hess from the University of Applied Sciences of the German Central Bank, and we've been working together to gather data and analyze it to figure this out. So I've been able to gather American data, both on cyber attacks and financial data from publicly traded companies. And I've been able to get that financial data from the Wharton's CRIS database that is offered through SIU. So that's been a great resource. And then he will be working on getting data through the German Central Bank on cyber attacks and financial data. Once we have all that data, we're going to look to correlate it with cyber attacks and stock performance by doing statistical and financial analysis on it. Next slide, please. So there's a lot that I've learned so far working in a multicultural environment. So the language difference is obviously one thing that's really been a great experience for me. I'm working toward the German focus, so getting a look into what the German business environment is and how that works has really, really been great. Also, we've been working virtually across time zones. A lot of business is done like this, especially since the pandemic, so this has also been a great experience. And I've also been working directly with a student, Albert Hess, and this has shown me kind of the differences in the educational systems between the US and Germany. The thing that I've probably enjoyed the most working through this project is that Albert and we've been able to work together without a professor looking over us. We've been able to work outside the classroom. And this has really allowed us to be creative and solve problems in maybe a way that, you wouldn't necessarily think. I've also been able to work on a real world challenge. So if our hypothesis is correct that these companies who have more technology, that they do have a greater impact negatively on their stock price after cyber attacks, this could cause companies to look internally, say, okay, if we have more technology, we need to invest more in security to prevent cyber attacks.
That's something that you might want to talk to the Simmons Law School about too, because there could be a cause of action.
Right.
I mean, those known issues.
And then I've also been able to expand my network. So I'm working directly with not only faculty, great faculty from SIU, but also with people from the German Central Bank and the University of Applied Sciences. So this has also been a great experience for me. Next slide, please. So looking at kind of what I desire from being in computer information systems in the CMAS department at SIU. So Professor Narov and we hope to get our research published and to speak on it at a conference. And we also hope to do more research together, possibly with the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. And then I would also love the opportunity to travel to Germany, meet the people that I've directly been working with, and actually meet them in person, and maybe even get an internship there for the summer. And then I'd like to talk a little bit more about, kind of bring it back to the CMAS department. So I talked about the faculty and the relationships with them, the great courses, and then another part of this is the experiential learning. But this is just one part. I'm just one of the students. There's many other students who are doing the same thing as me and having great opportunities. There's actually there's something with the NSA. There's a project where students from SIU can work on code breakers project with the NSA. So that's another great opportunity for students within the CMIS department. And really, there's a lot of people who are having similar experiences to me. I'm from a small town from Troy, Illinois, and here I am. I'm able to do research, meaningful research, with people from the German Central Bank. I mean, how cool is that? Where else would I have that opportunity, and where else would I be able to present to a board of trustees? Thank you, and I'll open up for any questions.
That question. How do bad actors get into a system? I mean, if it's protected by username or password and stuff, how do bad actors get into a system?
So there's a couple different ways. One of them would be through the people. I think Dr. Williams mentioned, or in that video might have mentioned, a big part of that is through people. So, they can stalk people, they can gain it through phishing attacks, things like that. There's also ways through the technology aspect too, that makes just the data more dangerous, more exposed. If you have more technology or storing more data in the cloud outside of your you don't really have control over it anymore. So companies or bad actors can kind of look at that, and they can just brute force it with passwords. They can steal information from that's just out there on the internet. There's just a lot more ways that they can get access to it if you have more technology.
Well, what do companies do to protect themselves from it?
So they can invest in infrastructure. So if you take a company that has a ton of data, maybe you're in healthcare, you have a lot of sensitive data, you can look at it and say, okay, we're not going to put the sensitive data to the cloud. We're going to keep this on our own servers. We're going to make sure we have control over all of our data. Or there's other companies that do security infrastructure. They can invest in them and bring them in to kind of make sure all their security is tight.
Are we making strides to prevent some of the breaches that we read and hear about?
I think there are, especially as with the technology increases and the increases in cyber attacks, there kind of has to be strides made in preventing that. So that's kind of a give and a take there. That kind of the evolution of that companies are kind of being forced to invest more into this. And this, what we're looking at, is more of a preventative measure. So kind of companies get out ahead of that and say, okay, if we have a lot of technological process, we store a lot of data in the cloud, that get out ahead of that and say we need to make sure before a cyber attack happens that we have all our data protected.
And finally, this question for Dr. Williams. It's obvious you guys are making this outstanding progress with 100 students. With there being such a great need, how will we market this new program to future college students?
That's a great question. I think that there are several ways in which we do that. Part of it is through the university. We have very specific marketing initiatives, and I would actually defer to the chancellor and some of his staff to address some of how we handle marketing specific things or specific programs. But one of the things that we're doing within the School of Business is outreach. So last year, for example, we brought in high school students in cybersecurity partnering with computer science to create awareness around the opportunities. So we utilize any channel that we can. So through our board of advisors within our CMIS department, as well as School of Business, we're connecting to the community to create awareness of the things that we're doing. It's more from our perspective at our local department, it's more of an organic marketing effort.
And my final question, Dr. Lane, Chancellor Lane, do we have a similar type of program on campus? Yes, sir. Okay. Is there connectivity working? I'm not sure.
Hopefully, we're probably sitting together out there. So
that's not the question. That was not the question. Okay. So, is there connectivity as far as these two programs?
I don't know. I gotta ask
we've just managed out of here.
Elements of it. There aren't as many programs that do that, so we really, even on our campus, diverse and has different needs.
With this program that just started in Carbondale, how many students are in it? What year are you in? Oh, wow. So you'll be about 125 next semester or next year?
I think it's important to mention that cybersecurity technology program that complements cybersecurity engineering program and complementary in nature. And the engineering teams
Nice.
And the departments had a lot of conversation. So
That's great.
Excellent work with the folks in computer science on our campus is they started a program to provide support in terms of infrastructure and how we were approaching things.
Great job from School of Business to step up and take a leadership role in this. It's awesome.
Give us a chance. We'll run with it.
That's great.
Dr. Williams, I have a question. I want to talk about the job market. You said there are 27,000 potential jobs. What kind of earnings do you expect your graduates to earn? Should not just the first year, but in their careers in the next 10 years.
Well, so entry-level positions in this area are going to be somewhere in, and the range is huge, depending upon organization, where they are, things like that. But it could be $50,000 to $75,000, $80,000 starting salary. And the demand for these roles isn't going anywhere. It's getting more challenging, increasing responsibility, greater breadth of organizations, because cybersecurity isn't just the purview of the folks that serve your community. All right. So when you have problems, I encourage you to look at the CEO from HSHS when he had put out his announcements around what was going on with their ransomware attack. That involved his entire bandwidth for months. So the demands of cybersecurity are throughout the entire hierarchy of the organization. That provides opportunities for career development and growth for people in this area. So it's absolutely true.
Makes sense.
This kind of reminds me, for those of you people on both sides, back in '59, the Russians put the Sputnik up, and all of a sudden in the '60s, everybody went into engineering to our aeronautical engineering, which has blossomed within the span of a few years, and this is the same thing, the exact same thing.
And the implications are significant. It's not just economic, right? The dislocations that come from cybersecurity challenges. This is 9/11, right? The implications for cybersecurity are world changing. So this isn't going anywhere, and our reliance on the technology, the advancements in AI, machine learning, and other areas will make that demand even stronger.
Another maybe odd question, but I assume all of our students are good students and they're going to get good jobs and they're going to work for good companies. But how are the bad actors becoming educated?
How are they becoming educated?
Yes.
Through some very good universities and other places around the world. They're also doing it through social media and the dark web. You would be shocked at just how easily you can access tools that would take somebody that is not capable of writing a line of computer code and allowing them to create a piece of bad software to do bad things. So So there is an entire supply chain. I was just lecturing my students about this last night. There's an entire supply chain around the creation of tools that are needed to exert cyber threats. And that part is truly scary. So, Nicholas, you're outstanding. You've got a bright future, young man. So,
Yeah, very, very impressive, very timely, as you said, and we all know it. Now keep it up, and I wish that the provost give more resources to your program.
agree.
Yeah.
And don't forget to be coach of the Ben. We're going to
One quick question. Are you guys thinking for the master's program also in security, either in computer science or in business? Is there a master's program on any of our campuses? No.
look at my new boss right now and see which way he wants me to go. So having been conversations, nothing formally internally, it would be a very exciting opportunity. It's a main position.
More so in collaboration with computer science.
It would be fabulous.
I mean, both of our campuses should look into masters in cybersecurity, interdisciplinary across the disciplines.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a presentation on the SIU Risk System Management Committee. Dr. Mahoney will present this item.
Yeah, and I will say we did not plan this, but it flows very nicely from the presentation we just had on cybersecurity. Yeah, this was not planned at all. We had did this already on the agenda before, but just to give you some perspective, across the system, we have a number of areas of risk that we are constantly trying to mitigate. Certainly, cybersecurity would be one of those, but there's a whole bunch of others. And I think in many ways we're doing a good job, but what I think we haven't had is a real coordination and a way to easily communicate what those risks are, what the most significant risks are, and what we're doing to mitigate those to the board. So I put together a committee that met for the first time last month of people who are involved in all of those different areas. And Kate Cohen, who is the executive director of the Office of Compliance and chief compliance officer for the School of Medicine, is taking the lead on that. So she's here today to talk about how do we kind of have that communication with the board, what would be the best strategy on that. So, Kate.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. So as President Mahoney mentioned, the group that he convened met to discuss how we would best approach developing and implementing a framework for identifying and mitigating risk across the university. We know there are aspects of some of this identification and mitigation happening already across the campuses, but the group is really hoping to identify ways that can be further coordinated and enhanced. And so we recognize that the framework that we're going to develop is going to require a really thoughtful evaluation from all areas across the organization so that we can best understand the specific risks that the university should be looking at on a regular basis and how we present those. Rather than simply assigning a generic risk rating, we think that the risks are best evaluated by asking the subject matter experts in the risk areas across the campuses to list specific gaps that create risk for the university, as well as evaluating existing risk mitigation efforts in place and additional risk mitigation opportunities. The goal of this exercise is not just to identify additional or enhanced risk mitigation that should be implemented for each of those risks, but to ensure that you all at the board level are aware of these risks that are facing the university and that you have enough information to effectively oversee that risk identification and risk mitigation strategy. So I am here on behalf of the committee today to ask all of you to consider whether there are specific metrics or methods of presentation that you would like to see as we start to design a framework for this work that we're undertaking. And if there are specific risk areas you think we should be focused on or prioritizing, we also welcome that feedback. We'd also like you to consider how often you'd like communication from this committee on these efforts about this process, updates on the process and its implementation, as well as the risk mitigation efforts once they're undertaken throughout the year, as well as where you want that communicated. We're happy to bring it to the full group, to the full board, to the audit committee, either as it exists or potentially a revamped looking audit committee, since it might be broader than just the audit function, or somewhere else that you think that these efforts might be best supported and communicated. There's also a somewhat second related matter for your feedback here, which is distinct from the System Risk Management Committee, but similar ask from you, and that is the healthcare compliance reporting function. Part of an effective compliance program is board oversight. Federal guidance requires that a governing board of an entity that provides healthcare services is knowledgeable about a compliance program and exercises oversight with respect to the implementation and effectiveness of that program. And a key part of that responsibility, the federal government has said directly, is regular communication between the compliance officer and the governing board. And so as we work to launch the system healthcare compliance function as well, which is going to cover all healthcare and privacy functions across the university, I'm also asking for feedback on how you'd like to receive communication about that and where. Is it going to be the same place as the risk committee and the work that we're doing, or somewhere different? So I'm happy to take questions, but that's our primary ask of you, is your feedback on what would you like to see? Are there specific methods of presenting it? How often and where? And certainly not asking you to answer that on the spot today, but starting the conversation.
I have a question that's for Dr. Mahoney. Seems like every year we get a risk system survey that we fill out. Does that go back to the audit?
Yeah, that goes back to internal audits. That's where they use that to determine which areas we're going to focus on the internal audit. But hopefully, if we do this process a little bit better, this may help you in filling that form out and saying, based on things I've heard, perhaps this is an area I'd like to see an internal audit look at more in this area. So I think we'll enhance that and we'll change that. But I think it will enhance the understanding you have to better fill that out.
Well, this committee, will this be under the audit committee then, or what?
That's part of the question, I think, is do we, again, I think back to Kid's point is we could include it as part of the audit committee when we report a meeting, where we do it 2 times a year or something like that. And again, not a question you have to answer.
I can tell you right now, nothing.
Okay, so we got that in the way. And again, that's not the answer today, but I think that's what we need to get back on.
President Mahoney, could you possibly give us some options and send it out to us and let us communicate back to you and go from there? And you can guide us through this process.
Absolutely, I think it's like that's what him up. And so I'll work together to put something together to share with the board. But I think that's the best way to do it.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
I want to thank Kate for her work on this. This is her leadership. So
Absolutely. And the next item is the FY 2025 operating budget discussion. President Mahoney, will you introduce this item?
yeah, so I'll start with some kind of general overview and then let each of the chancellors and the dean of medicine present. If I'm going to look at the budget overall, I would say compared to where we were, it was about 7 or 8 years ago, we're in a lot better shape than what's been existed at that time. We've gotten much more state support in the last several years from the legislature and the current governor. We have seen better enrollment in some cases, particularly this year than one of the first years we've had an overall increase across the system, and enrollment. All of that has made the situation better. And certainly better than what we're seeing nationally in a lot of places. I think this year 2% of the universities ceased to exist. A large number of others have had to make pretty drastic cuts, including cutting of tenured faculty members, which is an unusual thing for universities to do. We're not in that type of position. So we're in a better place than some, and certainly a better place than we were before. Still, we have lingering issues that come from years of disinvestment from the state, as well as declines in enrollment that we have to address. So what you'll hear today from each presenter is our best attempt to kind of manage through this continuum of financial challenges that most universities have, but at the same time trying to find a way to move forward as best we can and build on some of the successes that we've had over the last couple of years. So we're going to start with SIUE and Chancellor Minor, and then we'll move to SIUC with Chancellor Lane, and then finish with Dean Cruz of the School of Medicine. So Chancellor Minor.
Thank you, President Mahoney. If it's okay, I'd like to start with 2 maybe contextual organizational points. With us today is Anne DeToy. She introduced herself to some people that have been, is newly appointed as the interim director of university budget and analytics. This was her first official day was Monday of this week. So I wanted to introduce her to system leaders and to the board. At the same time, I want to just publicly acknowledge Bill Winter, who is also here. Most of you all have been seeing Bill for the better part of 30 years. He is in his 29th year of service at the university. And I have said this publicly in other settings. He is perhaps one of the most dedicated, committed, dutiful professionals that I have ever worked with. And I just want to take a moment to thank him publicly and to acknowledge his service. He's not going away. He'll have some other things to do, but I just wanted to say thank you publicly, Bill, for your service. Thank you. The second thing I want to mention just quickly, the university formed not so long ago a budget work group, a cross-section of individuals across the university to focus on two things. One is our budget reporting environment, and two, what I call our budget ecosystem, budget reporting ecosystem, and two, the systems for which we use to do budget reporting and accounting across the university. My hope is that between now and the end of the term, that group will finish their work and provide a set of recommendations to me and the Chancellor's Council for implementation. With respect to the budget, I'm pleased to say that we were able to close out FY24 in a fairly good position. The two biggest variables in our university budget is enrollment on the revenue side. As President Mahoney noted, we've had pretty steady support from the state, which we're grateful for. But enrollment is the biggest variable in terms of revenue for the university. The biggest expense line for the university are salaries and operating expenses. And so as you look across those categories, those are the two big variables in our budget. I will say that any planned deficits that you see on our balance sheet, they are planned. We have a plan to cover them. The university has a fairly strong cash position. We've maintained a fairly strong cash position. And we have not had to access our cash reserves to cover any operating deficits in our general operating budget. The other thing that I'll say just on the second page, the FY24 and FY25 revenue and expenditures by fund group. The one variance that you'll see on that line is in the grants and contracts line. There's a $20 million variance in terms of the budget and actuals for FY24 and the budgeted amount for FY25. I think we discovered this year that we had consistently under budgeted in this category and outperformed on a number of consecutive years, which meant that the budget amount was underestimated, and so we've made that adjustment to $63.7 million for FY25. The last thing I'll say just quickly with respect to the university budget for FY25, our focus will be on enrollment and retention. I'll share a little bit more about that tomorrow in the report to the board. To create better budget reporting infrastructure, we want to give our leaders across the university, individuals with fiscal responsibility, the very best information possible to make decisions. And then to focus on additional operating efficiencies for the university. We're going to work hard on all three of those categories, but I think the top line here is that the university is in a strong financial position, but we've got a lot of work to do ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Minor. We'll take questions for everybody at the end of each of the presentations. I do want to pick up on one thing Chancellor Minor said. I think this is always one that's easy maybe for people to understand, but when you talk about the importance of enrollment for us, not just in the students succeeding, getting graduating, but typically when you're looking at undergraduate, graduate enrollment, professional schools are a little different, but each student is about $10,000. And so that makes a huge difference when you go up 100 students, you go down to 100 students. It has a very big, significant, a very, very significant financial. So just always keep that in mind. So Chancellor White.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mahoney. You know, I hired Susan Simmers. Susan has come in and hit the ground running in a very quick way to get us into some really good shape. She's got a lot of years of experience in doing this, and it really pays to have someone like that to really help navigate where we need to move in. To echo what Dr. Mahoney mentioned, I can tell you that things are getting a lot better from when I started in 2020. And so a lot of that is because of the hardworking folks around the campus, people that have been willing to sacrifice and do some things in some cases without and be a little more creative. And so we've got a lot of folks chip in to do that. I'll work from left to right, really on the sheet that you're looking at from the appropriated funds, income funds. I'll go left to right, but before I do that, I want to talk to you about how much we worked on this as soon as the budget was approved last year. So we had multiple cost-saving measures that we put in place to begin the fiscal year. So our team got together and started thinking about what we could do to really make things better at the institution financially. Hiring chill, we instituted that on all the positions when we kicked the year off for those positions in the income fund. We consolidated several positions, whether it was in the facilities area or other areas across campus. We started looking at ways to discontinue our Nortel PBX system. Will Clark, he's going to know that I call him Will Smith. But Will Clark did an amazing job in really bringing that to light. Slowing the completion timelines and using personnel in different cases, just making sure that when we hire, that we are not immediately rehiring and we're assessing those positions as it relates to personnel. So that was a big piece for us. Going forward, really doing a lot of work in areas that have struggled a little bit. University press, athletics, broadcasting. Those are some of the big ones, some of the big areas that we have there. We're excited. State appropriations up $1.7 million over fiscal year 2024. You will hear tomorrow the announcement. Obviously, you heard the announcement on enrollment. We brought in 431 additional students this year. So our enrollment went up 3.8%. To tell you, for the last 2 years, we've been able to do that. That makes a big difference in that tuition revenue category. And so that's helped us in a lot of different ways as we look at being able to do some creative things to give some of that money back to our faculty and staff. We've been able to do that. The increases over the last few years for our categories of non-represented and represented. So that's really been helpful. We actually brought in $75.2 million in cash tuition fiscal year 24, and we budgeted $71.2 million. So we exceeded that in a good way by $4 million there. As I mentioned, we expect to get the numbers on the enrollment piece, and that's going to again help us in that regard. The increases that you see in grants and contracts is from Pell, Head Start, Mile Launch, and other Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity grants. The indirect cost recovery files increases in grant expenditures. Our revenue bond includes the increase from room and board that was approved at the April board meeting. The deficit that you see when we look at this particular category is mostly from the Student Medical Benefits Administration, about $923,000 there in that regard. The negative that you see in the operating budget and some supporting is mostly due to athletics. Just some costs that there. Tim's done a fantastic job, but he inherited some things that he's working through now. Essentially, that's most of what you see in that amount. We have many funds that, in some cases, I know myself, the provost, and others have looked at some of these beginning balances that folks are carrying. We're changing a lot of our budget structures and models to make sure that there's some oversight in some of those areas, and so they're not getting themselves into some trouble. So those are just a few areas for us. Again, for 2025, we're doing a lot of what we call just checks and balance on requesting budget plans from several areas. Poor Jeff out there looking at him, we've had to reduce a little bit, get a little more creative, right? Jeff, all the great some of the resources across campus has been very important. We just have to be smart. We have put our money and our focus, again, as you'll see tomorrow, or actually today, if you go to the final page, you'll see where a lot of our commitments are. And that would be in 24 to 25 if you look at the major changes in the general operating. Our design commitments, faculty promotions, we just signed our 4-year contract with our faculty association. That's going to bring all of our faculty some increases in pay. That was a commitment. We've not done much for our faculty in the 4-year period, and so our faculty are very pleased with the negotiations and with the agreement that we just made. And I'm really excited about that. Long overdue. And there's still work we're doing in our CBID study to look at equity adjustments across the board for faculty. Same thing with staff. We've been able to almost $500,000 adjust a lot of our staff with the dollars to help with their salaries. Our NTT faculty will benefit. Our graduate GAU will benefit as well. We signed the contract with that CBA. Wanting to look at a 1% increase across the board for our non-represented employees that are here. The last few years we've been able to do 2%, I think 1% the first year that I was here. So we feel really good about what we've been able to come from. I know when we started, I think we were at $38 million for payback. We were at $38 million in 2017, been up about $9 million now. So a lot of progress is being made. A lot of folks are sacrificing, but we're still able to do a lot of positive things to help our employees.
All right, thank you, Chancellor Lane. Cruz. Thank you very much. I'll speak mainly about pages 5 and 20, if you would like to look at those. First, I would like to thank John Horvat, Associate Provost for Finance and Administration, for all his great work, and his team, Carla Harney and Mike Cagle on the School of Medicine side. You see their work here. But he also heads our clinical finances as well, which is a big operation. And that team he oversees is headed by Jody Carey, who in 2007 was the starting fielder for the SIU Edwardsville Cougar softball team, which won the NCAA Division II National Championship. She slammed a 3-run homer in the first game to bring victory over Florida Southern. And in the last game, made an over-the-fence catch to save the victory from Central Oklahoma. So just thought I'd be a little SIU connection there. She's quite good at finances too, Miss Van. So that's great. So on page 5, you'll notice our total revenue, $320 million, and we budgeted just over $1 million loss. Deficit, actually, not a loss. It's not a loss at all, because if you look at page 20, you look at our all funds amounts in the two colorful boxes at the end. We're actually budgeting a gain of about $20 million in our revenues and our expenditure side for the next year. Now, I do have to mention that last year I did say that the post-COVID period was a very difficult time for health systems and particularly for hospitals. And I did want to reiterate one more time that the SIU School of Medicine is a community-based medical school, one of 34 community-based medical schools in the country. We do not own a hospital or a health system, and it's been that way from the very beginning. So we were born because of partnerships. We thrive and we grow because of partnerships. We innovate because of partnerships. And generally speaking, over time, if things are a little rugged for us, our hospitals partners pull us up, and then vice versa as well when they have a rugged time. So you might remember that last year we budgeted a pretty big deficit, and we actually realized that deficit. I'll also mention, though, that as we came through that, we maintained a really excellent, a very good cash position with operational reserves as well. So over the past year, our hospital partners have restored much of the original funding from the original things that they had funded. We have done new grants as well, and they have funded some of those, we've done to help them. And so you actually will see that significant increase in the total funding. But we have done a lot of things with belt tightening and creative ways with a bunch of revenue groups that we've been working with to get to this position, to get back from the previous year's $8.8 million deficit to this $1 million. And things are going very well with the clinical practice on that side as well. So I would just say I really don't have anything in particular to point out here. Well, I will say one thing. Line 6, column 6, self-supporting activities, that's where our contracts with our hospital partners reside, the academic support account, professional services agreements, and medical director contracts. Also, everything with our federally qualified health center is in that line, as is our Office of Correctional Medicine and our new behavioral health workforce center. So things like the state funds from that center go here to make that total budget go up. So we actually are quite pleased with the way that the budget has turned out for next year. Anything on this, John? Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, if we have any questions for any of the presenters, take those now.
I do have one question. This is probably for the system, Dr. Lonnie. Any future capital building projects on the horizon for the system, as well as at one time we were having maintenance concerning the or could you talk a little bit about that, if you will, from a systems point of view?
Yeah, so the building that's on the horizon, at least with the state support, so the health sciences building obviously already started in Edwardsville. The communications building, we've got a timeline set up for that over the next several years. So yeah, it'll take several years between the time we start to the time that building will be finished. I think what was it, 2028? What's that?
Substantial completion 2028.
28, yeah, that's right.
What's the time period sports started?
Yeah.
So now we have a great meeting about a week ago with the architects, and so they're essentially closing up all of the value engineering and getting down to here's what the building is going to be, and so that meeting for us was great. As a matter of fact, our dean should be announcing any minute to faculty the good news about this particular building starting very soon. So we got the plans in place, just a matter of launching. We anticipate that building started in 24 or 25. Probably late, 24. That should hopefully 24. There's some things in there's got to be done early 25. It's probably a better time frame there.
Yeah, it's something I think we have to get the release.
It's a rotation.
A question for Chancellor. On this utility increase, it is the increase or the total 1.9 million?
That's the total for this year. The utility increase.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, the second part of the question is.
Yeah, so and we do have some funds in the state to help support deferred maintenance, which we've been trying to use as selectively and carefully as we possibly can. So that has certainly helped. But that's still an issue for all of us. And that's a national issue. Any university's been running for a while, obviously has that issue. There is a House hearing coming up in a couple of weeks to talk about that particular issue from the state board perspective. So I'll let you know how that goes and whether they're thinking about it. I will say when they did the funding formula discussions in the spring, one of the things several of the legislators pointed out was that deferred maintenance was not part of that model in any way, shape, or form. And so there's an understanding that that will have to be dealt with differently. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, the next, we will close the meeting, go into executive session. I move to close the meeting to the public for the purpose of considering pending, probable, or imminent court proceedings against or on behalf of the board, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees. collective negotiating members between the public body and its employees or their representatives, for deliberation of certain salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and review of executive session minutes. The relevant sections of the Open Meetings Act include allow the 12 sections of 5 ILCS 120/2, parentheses, 1.